Órale, ¿qué pasó, gente? It's your boy, Steve Garcia, aka Belon, and you're tuned in to another episode of Chocast, better known as the Chicano podcast. So, what's the deal? How y'all feeling politically out there? We're already at the middle mark of February 2020. So we're in this thing, man. This year we're in this thing. We got a new presidential election coming up. And for y'all that have just started listening to the podcast, I've got a lot of topics that I cover here, and sometimes they alternate and change, but lately I've been pretty consistent with politics, and there's a good reason for that. I mean, everything is political. If you're 20 years old, you need to be political. If you're 30 years old, 50 years old, 80 years old, 100 years old, I don't care. We need to start talking about our children being in politics at an early age nowadays as well. We got to plant those seeds that this thing is not going away. Politics is, it's literally going to be the only thing that separates the masses in the days that we're living. And you can do research. You can look at the last 200 years. You can look at the last 250 years. But our legal system and our politics and our people in power and the corporations that kind of guide those people in power to the light, so to speak, or the darkness, if you will. These are all real issues that we need to really critically think about. We need to not only take those apart, those ideas, but we need to disseminate what's really going on. What are they doing? How are they doing it? What do they mean? What does that legislation mean to your family, to your income, to your children's education, jobs, all those things? Lately the podcast has been very political, and for good reason. Chicanos are not politically active. You can be whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care, who listens to the podcast, but I don't do it for nobody except for us, because there is a direct benefit, or there is a direct reflection on how we do as a people that's going to affect me and you too. We need to stop thinking that, we're so independent that we don't need each other. We do need each other. We do need each other. I know how we've been raised. I know we're probably the most, I wouldn't quite say macho, right? To where we, think that, we're just so tough or whatever. But in a way, it kind of seems that way. We don't ever want to ask nobody for help, and I get that. You know what I mean? But asking your family for help shouldn't really be the same thing. Asking your people to help your people, that shouldn't really be the same thing. And I'm just trying to make a point that, we really do need to, realize that we're powerful, like in like a flock, And I mean, these things just need to be reiterated, man, over and over and over and over and over again, because for some reason we just don't get it. We're not practicing it. We want to be, I don't know, as children, we kind of grow up in high school, and that's kind of where, I think they get us, is putting us in schools with their kids and tell us to learn everything that they teach us, and everything that they teach us is how to be like them. So of course, our children want to be like the other little kids, and then we get kind of triggered into that, hey, I want to be like them. I want to be like them, and then, so, you kind of go to work, you kind of go to school, you kind of get out of work, and, you want to get those jeans, you want to get that, I don't know, perfume, you want to get that drink, you want to get that car, everything that, the rest of everybody else is doing. And I understand that. But to get out of the weeds, what I'm saying is we need to just be like in a big picture, voting kind of like as a big picture, having a control over our means, if you want to have the same car or same clothes or whatever, cool, whatever. But we can't even afford it with some of the ways that they're, enacting legislation to, have cops treat us differently. They could put you in the freaking morgue. You can get killed. That cop is not going to treat you the same way as John Fitzgerald. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to treat your son the same as Bill Gates, and I'm talking about anybody that looks that way with that kind of name, gets pulled out of a car, they treat them different, they have different opportunities. Hell, they're enacting a new law that was actually put in place to help minorities with getting bank loans. And now they're going to roll that back to where it makes it more discriminatory. There's a lot of things that are going on, politically. And it's like the people that are making these rules, they're expressing a backlash. Like, they're expressing a real, true, I don't like what's going on in the country right now. Whether that's our fault or whether it's not, that's what they're saying. They're saying that, and they have the it's kind of like the sheep that are following the master, the shepherd. And that shepherd is planting seeds in their heads, like, this is the reason that, you're seeing change. This is the reason that these things are happening. This is the reason that if you're broke, this is the reason. That if you have problems, this is the reason. If you don't have a job, this is the reason why you're late on your mortgage, or you're seeing diversity, or, it's the liberals' fault. It's the minorities' fault. These are the things that these culprits at the pulpit, these guys that have a bigger interest than even the people that they're talking to, these sheep, these people, they call it, I think right now, like a populist movement. You could do some more research on that. They're saying that, it's pretty much the the majority. But they all kind of fall into, like, I think, a Republican profile that's, getting older, and they have seen a lot of changes over the last 50 or 80 years. And that has a lot to do, I think, with, the demographic changes that are happening, the non-white immigration, that's happening, the inflation that's happening, the corporate takeovers of our wealth status in the country. Those problems are because these elites are not paying the salaries, they're not paying the wages, they're not paying the insurance, they're not paying the taxes. So of course you have another segment, of society that sits there and looks at this analytically and says, no, this is not the immigrants' fault. This is not the fault of the government. And some of the ideas are just really hard to understand or grasp or digest, disseminate, what have you. I mean, it's a complicated issue to where, you can, put a lot of the blame on the people that are in politics or government, because our politics and our government is corrupted. There's too many ways to change the laws in favor of the elite just by becoming a super donor to someone's campaign. You help me get elected, I will become a super donor. I will donate millions. I will donate, $100,000, here, 200,000 there, 900,000 over here. Where do you want a million? They've just got this unlimited amount of resources because they don't have to pay taxes. So now all that money that, look at somebody like, let's just say, Bezos, right? After he got divorced, he's still worth 130 something billion dollars. Him and two other people have the same amount of wealth as half of the United States, which is less than $1 trillion. And there's $21 trillion of wealth annually in the country. And half of the United States isn't even getting $1 trillion. You do the math, that's less than, 5%. So they have all this money, and when you look at who's paying all the taxes, if all the taxes are coming from the poor people at 15, 20, 25%, and these guys are paying limited to no taxes at all, you look at $130 billion, and if you were to, say tax that, let's just say, let's just throw out an easy number, like 10%, just 10%. That'd be $13 billion. They can use less than freaking 10 or 20% of that just to lobby the House, the Senate, the Congress, to do whatever the fuck they want them to do just by being a super donor. They can give them, hey, let me go ahead and give you $1 billion. Of course they're going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to be like, I need you to jump and I'm going to give you $1 billion to your campaign just to secure, you're going to, get the election. That's what happened with Trump. A lot. That's actually what was happening with Hillary Clinton as well. But a lot of the people, there was a split, where a lot of people just didn't want to go that route again. A lot of people went Republican. A lot of people, and here's another thing, is that a lot of people are lying. This is something that I've noticed, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. It's an observation. You can make it on your own. Do it. Test it. Check it out. If you don't think that it's true, don't listen to my podcast anymore. I don't care. I'm just saying that I know that it's true because I've seen it with my own eyes with people, not only in my family, people that are my friends, people that I just meet. They don't have no reason to lie. But they will sit there and tell you that they don't know who they're voting for. They will not tell you they're voting for Donald Trump. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And I think that a lot of that has to do with just the comprehension level of a lot of folks out there. So if you're listening to the show, man, I appreciate it. Because, it's not like I need you to listen to the show. I'm saying that I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit there and want to become like a better individual. And you can tell just from, the dialogue, whether, I know as much as a scholar. No, I don't. Or like, the number one, political analyzer in the world. No, I don't. I don't know all that. I just know enough to put it into a context that makes sense to like what I think my audience should be. And if I feel like I need more information to back that up, I'll go research it. And believe me, I am becoming better for it. Just like I think that everybody else that takes that step becomes better for it. And I think that the conversations and the podcasts and the episodes are going to get more and more and more interesting as we go. We're going to learn and grow together, but that needs to happen. That needs so desperately to happen in our community. And that's kind of, I guess, where, I'm gaining my footing or my traction or wherever. I'm kind of seeing the light at the end of the road. This is something that's not going away. This is something that needs to get, bigger. It needs to get better. It needs to get more aligned into our everyday lives. I need to ingrain this this thirst, this hunger for political knowledge. So back to these super PACs or these super donors, whatever you want to call them. They're just a bunch of rich guys that are just bribing the shit out of the politicians. That's what it is. It's like if a cop came, pulled you over, told you that you were speeding. He has a couple of options. He can give you a ticket if he thought that you were being, reckless or whatever. They can give you a warning. They just thought that it was an accident. Or they can just do their regular job and just say, you know what? I got to give him a ticket. And the guy turns around and says, look, man, I know you only make $60,000 a year. What if I gave you this amount of money to not charge me for whatever you were going to write that ticket for? And who knows what the consequences would have been to that guy. Maybe that would have been his 10th ticket. Maybe that would have been his final ticket before they take his license away, and he couldn't afford that. And I don't know. Maybe he had cocaine in the car. Maybe something was a consequence that was too great for him to want to go through, that he'd rather give that cop a bribe. Now, if it's worth it to the cop, you can't tell me that there has not been bribery through cops. I'm sure there are many cops out there that have taken money to overlook something. And I'm not just talking about speeding tickets. I'm not just talking about simple warrants. I'm just not talking about, patrolling a certain area that probably gets robbed. I'm sure that there's a lot of dirty cops out there that get paid for doing shit under the table. And that all is kind of like, bribing somebody from doing your job. And that's exactly what's going on, with politics. There's no difference whatsoever. And it's fucked up to see it that way, because that's exactly what's happening. These guys are paid to do a job. These guys are paid. They're in there to be our checks and balances. They're in there to serve the Constitution. I shouldn't even say that they get paid to do it. But I mean, everybody has to live. Everybody has to have a salary. I don't think that they're supposed to make as much money as that they do. But they do. And that's supposed to, I think, avoid the situation that's happening right now. But they're all being bribed. That's there. And, we got issues. With our, political ecosphere, our political environment, our political habitat. It's like we want to live in the rainforest like an animal wants to live, survive. But these companies and these politicians, they're chopping down the rainforest, and they're doing it. They're doing it pretty hard, and they're doing it pretty fast. And those laws and that legislation is supposed to hold that rainforest intact. As much as I don't like the founders, I mean, that's kind of what they knew. They knew inherently. It's not like they were brilliant. They knew the powers that they were giving to those three branches of government. And those were some of the protections that they kind of, put in place because they knew that, they can't control they can't control the greed of human beings, if you will. They knew that, they had flaws, and that they had probably seen some of their own, getting bought off, through, money and systemic issues from, who knows, maybe Europe or France or Spain was trying to intervene with some of these bribes. England, whatever. So, where I was going with this, particular episode was just to, talk about these nationalistic, ideas, that are out there, and so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this. I don't know basically how to wrap my head around this new mainstream conservatism. A lot of people are saying that it's basically right nationalism. However, I got a pretty good article that I kind of wanted to touch on. Maybe we can get something from it. But yeah, that's basically the name of the article. It just came out in December of 2019, on December the 2nd. Let's see here. It is called Mainstream Conservative Parties Pave the Way for Far Right Nationalism. So it's by Bart Bonikowski and Daniel Zablat. By talking up ethnic nationalism but not delivering, they opened up space for the radical right. Supporters of Germany's alternative Für Deutschland waved flags in front of the train station in Berlin on May the 22nd or May the 27th of 2018. The poster reads, "No Islam in Germany." So apparently, the Germans, they don't like them Islamics, man. Them Islam people. They don't like them at all. And this is kind of, I think, where this article starts. Radical right political parties such as Germany's Alternative Für Deutschland and Italy's Lega have become enduring features of the political landscape in established democracies. This has received a lot of attention because these parties often promote anti-immigrant policies and assault the basic norms and rules of democracy. Sounds a little like what's going on over here. Anyways, however, they present a real puzzle. Even where support for the parties has been growing, voters' views have not become more extreme. There is little evidence in most Western countries that people on average are becoming more racist, xenophobic, or Islamophobic over time. So what's happening? What seems to be driving these parties' support is increased salience of national beliefs among voters who identify their nation with the ethnic or racial identity of the majority group. Many people who have long been hostile to immigrants and minorities had not been voting based on these sentiments. They had other political priorities that mattered more to them in the past elections, and over time, however, voters in many countries have begun to rank immigration one of the main policy areas associated with exclusionary nationalism, and as important on public opinion surveys. Opinions on public surveys, more important, that's what they're saying, than other traditional areas of concern. So things are changing, and I've heard this before where immigration has always been kind of like number 3 or 4 or 5 on a lot of these, I guess they're calling the people majority, right? And we know who that piece of the pie is, the older white male that's, I think, like a baby boomer. I think that might be kind of like a good profile fit for what they're calling the majority. Those guys have kind of voted, number 4, number 5, kind of below. But now immigration is kind of being the number 1 concern. And I think that's kind of where Donald Trump capitalized on some of the things that are going on in the world and looking at, Germany and the rest of Europe and how, they're combating, immigration, or how their hatefulness or hatred towards, that changing ethnicity in their country is basically like throwing jet fuel on a fire if you start to talk about it. And that's exactly what's happening here in the United States. So this is a great article. I'm going to go ahead and start reading again. It says, elsewhere, as in the United Kingdom before the Brexit referendum, immigration has also become linked to increasingly salient concerns about national sovereignty. Here goes another word you want to watch out for: sovereignty. That's one of the words that I'm seeing, dumbass Trump use. Some of these populists, are using that word to basically, say, hey, this is ours. And these immigrants are trying to come over here and take over because they know, as Chicanos, as indigenous, as Native Americans, they know that our numbers are big. And they know that if they gave us a voice, if we had newspapers, if we had TV, if we had ABC, CBS, NBC, these would be the same things that we would be saying, that this isn't your fucking land. You came from all these countries over there in Europe. How can you call us immigrants? They know that. They know that. So that's why they're using words like sovereignty, Anyways, let me get back to it. In short, voters appear to be increasingly motivated by what they perceive as affronts to their national identities. See, there you go again. National. That's what they see them. They want to see themselves as the identity of the Americas. They want to see themselves as the nationalists. That's why you're seeing white nationalism. That's why you're hearing sovereignty, Key in, guys. You got to really just look at the dynamics of what's going on. Take this episode for whatever it's worth. Go check it out. Go ask the questions. Go do your research. Google it. Watch Trump and see what he says, because you may be voting for Trump. You may actually not know that these are the ideas that these guys are talking about. And you're just going, yeah, rah, rah, I'm American. And you don't know what they're saying. You don't know what the fuck they mean when they're talking about this kind of stuff. And you're like, yeah, I'm American. And they're just looking at you like you're a fucking dumbass. Because we're going to vote against you. We're going to vote against your rights. We're going to vote against your people. And we're going to make sure that we control, the jobs, the economy, the schools, the water, the resources, Let me get back to the article. I'm going to get out of the weeds. Why are nationalist appeals and attitudes now more salient? Many researchers blame radical right politicians and media personalities. Here you go. Just like fucking Tucker Carlson. He's one of them. And that other little blonde, young, I don't know her fucking name, man. She's a little bitch. She's always, talking about immigration, and they talk about it like they want to fight. They're like sitting there on Fox News going, yeah, like yelling. If you watch them, this is what this is saying. It says they blame the radical right politicians and media personalities for stirring up the anxieties of major group voters. They're going to come for your jobs. They're going to come and rape your daughter. They're rapists. They're nothing but rapists. Trump says these things. You have to be critical of the things that are coming out of their mouth. This is what these white people, these Republicans, these hate groups, these far right people with these agendas, they are planning these things in their head. I'm telling you, watch out. They are putting these things in their head. And if you're a Republican, shame on you for not being smart enough to know what you're doing. But at the same time, wake up, man. Wake up. We're all asleep at some point. But I know I wasn't that far asleep to go and vote for a fucking pendejo like Trump. Or, go against, what is inherently wrong. Locking up little babies, putting them in cages, letting them die, And then you're a Christian on top of that. You go to church? Come on, man. Come on. Anyways, getting back to the article, this is certainly understandable. Rapid social, economic, and cultural change have created ripe conditions for appeals to ethnic nationalism, populism, and authoritarianism. And radical right opinion makers have taken advantage. They've taken advantage of the situation. I'm not changing any of the words. I'm reading it to you verbatim, just the way that it's coming out. Another thing that I've seen and I heard is that once that white or whatever the right wing nationalism, white nationalism, whatever you want to call it, once it's been around for a while, once it's kind of festered long enough, like if let's just say for Trump, if he was in office for 8 years, well, he's already making claims that he's not going to leave. Like he thinks that the people want to keep him in there even after the term limits. You think I'm lying? That's serious talk. You can look it up. I've already seen articles on, where he's kind of like hinting, or they're hinting towards the people not really wanting him to leave, like these staunch supporters. And maybe he can. I'll sit there and stay around, change, because he doesn't really care about the Constitution and all the Declaration of Independence and all the rules. He thinks that he can just rewrite everything. That's why he gave that piece of paper back to Pelosi and she ripped it up like, fuck, you're just making your own rules anyways. You're not going by anything. It doesn't even need to be here. She just ripped it up. She was basically telling everybody that that's basically what he told her, because it was going to go in the garbage anyways. She's just showing what he did. He doesn't care about the rules. He says there's no rule of law. The rule doesn't apply to him. He can stay in office for as long as he wants, but this is the point. The point is that they say in other countries where a lot of this is happening, this right-wing nationalism, this white nationalism, after it's been fostering for like so much time, it becomes authoritarianism. Kind of like over there in Venezuela. That's what they're scared of happening like in Bolivia. Not done with the article. This article is really good. If you want to look it up, and read it. But I'm reading the whole thing for you, word for word, and giving you, my insight on it. So going back to the article, however, a sole focus on the radical right misses the fact that the mainstream parties too have made exclusionary nationalist appeals long before the most recent electoral gains of extremist parties. For many years, traditional center-right parties have relied on xenophobic language to mobilize voters in election time, both in Europe and in the United States, by reminding voters of the apparent threats posed to the nation by immigrants and minorities. See, this is something that, I think all white voters are aware of. Whether they're on the left or the right, they're just saying that the right has really capitalized or taken advantage of being able to emotionally mobilize, emotionally weaponize, these guys, get them angry to go cast their vote, for them, because the rapists are going to get your daughter, because the immigrants are going to take your job or take your money or steal your house. They don't live by any rules of law. That's kind of what they spew. If you remember all the things that Trump said, it's kind of the way he did it. Anyways, getting back to the article, for example, leaders in Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union, the CDU, although firmly committed to democracy and notions of tolerance throughout the 1990s, found it strategically useful to repeat, "We are not a country of immigration," quote unquote. We are not a country of immigration. Wow. This slogan became an article of faith for the party. The CDU and its Bavarian sister party, the Christian Social Union, often claimed to be protected traditional Christian culture against all external cultural threats. So they're going all the way right and saying, hey, we're not, immigrants. Because a lot of, our left people here are saying, hey man, we're immigrants, like what are we acting like this for? And I think that's another thing that I've heard before too, is it's just these Republicans, they're willing to fight. They're willing to argue. They're willing to get angry. They're willing to, go the whole 9 rounds where, us more left, Democratic, liberal, whatever, we're not really built like that. We don't really want to have, these long, fights, we kind of let them win. And that's what they're saying about that right. Trump's people is that they'll stay on Facebook. They'll continue to argue. They'll continue to make those points because they know that they're being outnumbered. They have to win. And that's where we falter, is we don't make a point of saying, hey, no, this is immigration. We are a country of immigrants. No, let's stay on point. We don't stay on topics. They will. You'll hear them say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Beat it like a drum. And sometimes it's wrong. But like on this particular point, this is a country of immigrants. Throw that in their face as much as possible. When you're, because you'll beat them. You can beat them as long as you analyze this, this game, this tactic, this legal war. We can beat them. You just got to outsmart them. Anyways, let me read the rest. Yet center-right political parties throughout Europe often did not match their nationalistic rhetoric with actual policy, creating opportunities for the radical right. Wow, took the words right out of my mouth. As voters have become more worried about immigration, they have become more frustrated with the apparent inaction of the mainstream parties and have drifted towards radical right actors who were more intensely ethno-nationalist. Wow, exactly what I was saying. In the 2018 German state elections, for example, the radical right AfD made previously unkept promises about the crackdowns on immigration a centerpiece of its campaign in the Bavarian countryside. One campaign poster explicitly proclaimed, "We will do what the Christian Social Union CSU promises." In those rare instances when these radical right politicians gain power, they appear to deliver on their exclusionary promises. President Trump's travel bans and family separation policies are case in point. Wow. So they're just basically saying, you put me in office, I'm going to do that shit. I'm going to fucking do it. No matter what. Elect me and I'm going to fucking do it. I'm a radical right politician. You give me the power, I'm going to fucking do it. And they do it. That's what it's saying right here. Look at what Trump is doing with the travel bans. Look at the family separation policies. They are going to fucking beat that drum. Like I told you, they're going to beat it. Boom, 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 boom. Ha, 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 ha. Trump, suck it. This is our country, and they will go out there with their flags, man. I'm telling you, this is what it's coming down to. And articles commit, and that's why they're saying that they're ready to fight. Cause a whatever, like a ruckus or some kind of fucking civil war and shit. In articles commissioned for the Monkey Cage, we examine how radical right parties capitalize on the growing salience of exclusionary nationalism. How this is shaping mainstream party messaging and how mainstream institutions are responding. The pieces are inspired by a 2018 academic conference organized by Harvard University's Weatherhead Center for International Affairs in Talliers, France. I don't know how you spell that, Talloires. Talliers, France. The authors were asked to write about the causes and consequences of radical politics. They were not assigned specific topics for their conference presentations or the pieces featured in this series, yet all the articles touch in one way or another on the points we have made here. They can be read as standalone contributions or pieces in the bigger puzzle of radical right success. And first article, Sherry Berman suggests immigration is become. Check this girl out. Check this lady out. Sherry Berman. Sherry Berman. If you take anything away from this, or you like this article, or you like this particular episode, check her out. She has some YouTube videos. She's like I think a professor at some college, and she teaches, I think, some kind of, I don't know, political science class or subject, and she's pretty interesting to see. Before I actually read this article, I was reading some of the stuff she puts out, and I was watching some of the videos that she put out. So it's kind of cool to see her in this particular article, because this is not her article, but they kind of touch on a little thing right here in this little paragraph. It says, in the first article of Sherry Berman suggests immigration is becoming more salient because the center left and the center right parties have converged on a neoliberal model of economic policy. When different parties no longer had different economic policies, voters focused instead of their very different cultural positions, including distinct understandings of national identity and immigration policy. So she's saying that they were kind of fed up because they were not getting, I guess, what they want or whatever. And they kind of band together on an understanding, I guess, of economics that, will make that, I don't know, second or third place behind, immigration. We'll fight. We'll stop fighting about the economics. We'll put, the immigration number one, and we'll kind of agree a little bit more on the economics and put that at number 2 or number 3. So they kind of agree a little bit more on the economics of like this particular. And I think that is happening. I've read that in other articles that don't have anything to do with this. I think it was, that's actually what Steve Bannon, that motherfucker, he's somebody to check out too, because he's the main one. He's the main culprit of all this shit. He's the one that said that, he started stamping, or basically like branding, better yet. He started branding Trump as like the economic savior of the United States. And that's why you always hear Trump talking about money, China. You always hear him talking about Wall Street. You always talking about the stock market in China and jobs. He's always doing it because, and when he does it, he does it in a real fast, quick, like, yeah, we're doing the best. We're bringing America back. We're, stock market's high, unemployment is up. And every single time, whether it's a lie or not, he just always says it because he knows that that's the second or third policy that he has to capitalize on. But then he goes back to the main one that gets everybody fired up, pissed off, or happy. Get those immigrants out of here. He goes back to the main one. It's a strategy, guys. It's a real strategy. And I'm actually glad that this episode is turning out the way that it does, because, it might not be real traditional of the way that I've been doing it. But I don't know. This is something that needs to be talked about. Let me go on to finish this one up. Liliana Mason argues that this process has been accelerated as parties came to cater a very different supporters. In the United States, Democratic supporters have become increasingly diverse and concerned about racial justice, and Republicans have become increasingly white and invested in preserving the racial status quo. You listen to that. The Republicans have become increasingly white, and they are invested in preserving the racial status quo. So if you don't believe, if you still after these truths, because these are not like things that I'm putting in your head. You can see them all around you. You can see him at those Trump rallies. You can hear him in his voice. This is the racial divide that's going on. But this is the analytical thought process behind of being a Republican. And if you're a Republican and you're not white, this is just something to think about. I'm not going to try to tell you, you're a dumbass. I did that a little bit earlier, and I kind of did it because that's my instinct. But think about whose side you're on. Are you playing for the right team? And why do people talk shit about you behind your back? You know what I mean? Why are you fighting with your family? Why does your family hate your guts? It's because they know this. They inherently know this. They might not be able to put it all together like these articles do, but they know all them. You know all them Trump supporters and Trump, what comes out of their mouth and how they act and the things that they say. This is America. Talk English. They see the videos. They know what's up, man. Anyways, this has created openings for progressives to push racial issues. But it has also helped the Republicans by generating backlash among white majorities. Complementing Berman's and Mason's emphasis on nationalism and immigration, Daphne Halakiopoulos and Sophia Vassilopoulou argue that voters' preferences are also influenced by how they perceive the legitimacy of state institutions. Radical right parties can succeed only if they expand their support beyond a narrow base of voters with extreme anti-immigrant views. When the government state doesn't seem to deliver what citizens demand, voters with more moderate anti-immigrant attitudes are more likely to vote for anti-establishment parties, allowing them to grow their support. Radical right parties have more support, but they have rarely entered government. Tim Bale's article suggests, however, that these parties can reshape political culture and policy even when they remain in the opposition. Focusing on the United Kingdom, Bale argues that the Brexit Party and the UK Independence Party before it set the terms of public debate and pushed the center-right Conservative Party to engage in constitutional hardball and embrace nativist discourse. In the final contribution, Daniel Kellerman asked whether supranational institutions, in this case the European Union, could serve as a brake on those radical right parties that have gained control of national governments and have begun compromising liberal democratic institutions. Recent controversies involving Hungary and Poland suggest the answer is no. Kellerman argues that the EU cannot provide the oversight because of the weakness of European parties, unconditional EU financial subsidies to member states, and the weakening of national opposition through intra-EU migration. So, you really just got to look at a lot of what's going on, in Europe and how they're handling it to kind of see a brief synopsis. What's actually going to be, going on over here, because, they're just saying that, it's very racial. They're saying it. These are white people. These are Europeans. These people are saying that it is very, 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 very racist. And that's what it's all about. So, if you want to go ahead and read more, about that, I would do so. And you can find them in those EU articles. I'm going to wrap it up with this last paragraph. The 5 articles suggest that liberal democracy is under strain. The economic shocks and existing cultural hostility to immigration and the strategies of the mainstream political parties are all making nationalism more salient across Europe and the United States. There is a deepening chasm between the mainstream and nationalist right approaches to immigration and the protection of minorities. At the same time, institutional safeguards are not strong enough to prevent some radical right parties from moving towards authoritarianism. If we want to prevent the erosion of liberal democracy, we have to understand what's driving the radical right, and this collection of articles will help us move in that direction. That's the end of the article, and That just basically says it. That's just like a synopsis of everything that we already talked about. They see it as they see us, they see immigration, they see color as a threat to whiteness or democracy that's white. And I'm telling you right now that if you're going to have an argument, all that stuff right there is just going to become authoritarianism. It's going to become like back, there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of memes, there's a lot of stuff out there, like making the references towards the KKK, kind of calling Trump Hitler. Well, this is kind of why they're doing it, because this is what it's boiling down to, and these are a lot of the rights that are going to be eroded from democracy by saying, hey, we're going to, start tapping your phones and checking locations if you look like you're Mexican, or if you're a foreigner, or if you're an illegal, or if you're a terrorist, because we don't know, if you're bringing crime and drugs, because that's all you people do. This is the kind of mentality that you have to be prepared for, especially if you're Chicano, or especially if you're indigenous, because if your native genes are from here, whether you be Canadian, one of the 500 nations up there, like the Eskimos, or, the First Nations people, or, the Cherokees, or the Iroquois, or, the Potawatomis, or, any Eastern tribe, or, if you're anything, like the Aztecs, the Incas, the Maya, the South Americans, all the way to the bottom of South America. We have certain genes, we have certain traits, colors of our hair, our brown, our skin. We look a certain way, and they can pick on all of us, not just one. So we have to recognize that we do have to hold together. We do got to band together. That's our strength. Our strength is our unity. And I'm about to wrap this up. This is actually the longest episode I've ever done. It was from a friend. I haven't been putting out a lot of episodes lately because I noticed that me being still a new podcast, I'm getting a lot of new subscribers. But the new subscribers, I'm able to more tell, how many people are starting to listen to my podcast if I can leave an episode out there for, like a week's time. Because if I only leave it for 2 or 3 days, a lot of people don't listen to it. And all my new people are just basically, I'm not able to count. Now I'm starting to get a better idea of like how many people I can actually, how many people are listening, because I know nobody's going to listen to it 2 or 3 times. You know what I mean? So it kind of makes sense. It's kind of cool that I'm starting to see those numbers grow. And that's why I'm leaving it out like for a week, because I'm still seeing like, there's not, it's not leveling off. It's actually, I can leave an episode out there for actually over a week and I'll still be getting people. But I normally used to put them out like one every day or every 2 days. I already got like 100 episodes out. So, it's kind of hard to gauge it that way. When now I'm able to do it in a way to where I can kind of also think about my content a little bit easier. I'm not just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. I'm kind of looking at more important topics that I should hone in on, more stuff that is going to be powerful as far as like what we need to be doing as a people. And that really is the framework of this particular show. But I think that this is a good ending point. It ended up actually perfect. And we'll go ahead and bounce out to the next episode. Signing out. It's your boy Pelon. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll check y'all on the rebound. Peace.